Ho, ho, ho.
Green Giant. What's the matter with your world? Was it born when you wanted a girl? When you wanted a girl? Don't you just
Silly rabbit. Tricks are for kids.
life ain't real funky. The lessons got that pop. Dig it. Pop life. Everybody needs a thrill. Pop life. We all got a space to fill.
Hey, Kool-Aid!
Oh, yeah.
Pop life. Everybody can't be on top. Life ain't real funky. The lessons got that pop.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey!
Tell me, what's it underneath your hair?
Welcome to the 70s versus the 80s, all my fellow pop culture loving babies. And if you ever got spanked with a section of Hot Wheel track, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, everybody. This is Wolfman Mike on the mic, and I can talk classic commercial icons all night.
He likes it. Hey, Mikey!
And as always, I am joined by my co-host, the co-host with the most, Spunky Comstock himself. Pretty fly for a broad guy is Brian. And in case you can't remember what Brian sounds like, he sounds a little something like this.
Surprisingly, won the award for the most likely to smash and marry, smash and or kill was Captain Crunch.
And folks, we are super excited about our show today. We're going to be talking about those iconic commercial characters that are just forged into our psyche that we all remember. We're going to be talking about them in a humorous way. That's right. We're going to have our first award show. We're calling the Icks. And so we're going to see who wins an Icky out of these guys. And then after that, we have another round of Forever Young. That's where me and Brian try to guess how old these actors and actresses that were so iconic in our youth. We just can't believe how old they are. And you can tell by our guesses that we really have no idea how old they are. So let's get into it. We got a lot of show today. Let's get into these commercial awards.
Everybody needs a thrill. Pop life. We all got a space to fill. Pop life. Everybody wants to be on top. Life ain't real funky unless it's got that pop.
So, Mike, the podcast has been getting some recognition of late. And one of the things is we were, because of our love of talking of things from the 70s and 80s, we were invited to be presenters at the Iconic Commercial Character Awards.
Yeah.
And they're called Ickies for short.
Yeah, that's Bill's ick.
Yeah, Ick. Yeah. So we were giving out Ickies. And it hasn't been broadcast on TV yet. I don't know if it ever will be. But we got permission to use the snippets of when we were presenting the awards on stage, and I think that we should play them for you, our faithful podcast listeners.
Yeah, there's originally supposed to be on deep cable, but then remember there really is no deep cable anymore. So
Yeah.
all right.
So it might be streamed somewhere, or it might be on HBO 8 or the Ocho. So I had the pleasure of being asked to present the best mascot that is made out of the product that they're shilling for. All right, Icky fans, I'm here to present the award for the best mascot made out of the product that they are shilling for. The nominees are Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut debuted in 1916.
Anytime, any place, you're my all-time favorite.
The Pillsbury Doughboy, also known as Poppin' Fresh, who debuted in 1965. M&M's Candy, the red and the yellow one, debuted in 1996.
M&M's. Have them at your Super Bowl party.
Hey, look, we're on the guest list.
That's the menu.
And finally, Kool-Aid Man, who originally debuted in 1954 and took on his current form in 1974.
Hey, Kool-Aid!
Oh, yeah.
And as I... and the winner is Mr. Peanut. Mr. Peanut, make your way on up to the stage.
Oh, Brian, he's dressed in his monocle. He really dressed up for that. He's got a cane, a monocle, and a hat. Or wait, I guess he always wears that.
Yeah, he's he's looking stylish tonight.
So, Brian, I also had a category to read off. Should we get to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So here at the Icky Awards, we have the next category is the creepiest commercial character. So this is the creepiest here. Of course, how could we do this without the great Ronald McDonald? Ronald McDonald debuted in 1963.
When you believe in magic, and
I hope you do.
you'll always have a friend.
Wearing big red shoes.
Anything can happen right before your eyes. Whatever you're expecting, expect a surprise. When you believe in magic, all
Only
right.
Ronald can do. I believe in magic.
I believe in you.
When you believe in magic.
So there he is out there in the crowd with his red afro. I can see it bopping around above the rest of the crowd there. And then again, we have a repeat character here. We have Kool-Aid Man. And you're right, he debuted in 1954, and then in 1974 they added his arms and his legs. So he became Kool-Aid Man there. And then, another repeat character, Pillsbury Doughboy. That little giggling always made him kind of creepy for me. Kool-Aid Man was always kind of creepy because his upper body was so huge, and then he had those tight, almost spandex bottom legs there that he had there. I always thought he was going to tip over. That seemed kind of creepy. So let's see who wins. And the tension's killing me. I'm having trouble opening my envelope. And it looks like Ronald McDonald. And I think that's fitting because he had the Hamburglar, he had Mayor McCheese. Get out of here. They were all creepy. I think Ronald McDonald was like the mayor of Creeptown there. So
That award was fitting when you were nervously opened that up and read Ronald McDonald. That 100% had to be Ronald McDonald, right?
Yeah, I like I said, I could see his red afro sitting above the rest of the crowd. It just kind of creeped me away.
Yeah, the next one I got to do was for the best iconic cartoon or commercial cartoon mascot that has a military rank. So I got to read that one off.
These are strangely specific, aren't they?
They're very specific. All right, folks, I get to come back out here on the stage, and I'm going to announce the most iconic cartoon commercial character that has a military rank. First up, the first nominee, and also at one of the, he won an award that was presented earlier at a banquet today. He surprisingly won the award for the most likely to smash and marry, smash or kill. Was Captain Crunch, or Horatio Magellan Crunch. Captain Crunch debuted in 1963.
Ahoy! Captain Crunch here, hot on the Crunchberry Trail.
Next up, we have a dapper dresser who likes to wear white, debuting in 1930. The next nominee is Colonel Sanders. So Colonel Sanders sitting out there. Why is he licking his fingers? Come on, you played that joke before. And then our third nominee, because we love our Canadian friends in Canada for a couple of years, he was known as Captain Kool-Aid. It's the Kool-Aid Man. It's the third thing he's been nominated for tonight. Kool-Aid Man. I see you over there. You're just off the stage here to the right. You're looking sharp in your nice red liquid. And let me open up and decide, read who the winner is. And the winner is Captain Crunch. Captain Crunch had it going on. Everyone wants to smash him, and now he's the most iconic military rank. He's wears those epaulets really well. Looks good in a sailor hat. So Captain Crunch, come on up and receive your award.
Ooh, Kool-Aid Man seems a little miffed. He's lost twice in a row here. I see a little tension starting out there.
Yeah, you could see the ice cubes were kind of like clattering around in the top of him.
Let's move on, Brian. I had another category that I presented here, and so mine was Best CGI Special Effect before CGI was even invented. These are getting oddly specific here, Brian. but
These are amazing.
our first nomination is The Chuck Wagon Stagecoach by Purina. This started in the 1960s, and I think we can all remember that little stagecoach kind of riding, going underneath the rug, just riding her, and the dog would chase it. And here's a little bit of his best footage right here.
Ready to feed the puppies, Mom?
Ready?
Let the weigh out of the bag.
Here goes.
The taste of puppy chuck wagon. It's enough to bring puppies running. They love puppy chuck wagon's crunchy rings, meat-like morsels, and the delicious gravy when you add warm water. Want to give your puppy great taste?
Let the weigh out of the bag.
Puppy chuck wagon. It brings puppies running.
And that Chuck Wagon dog food always kind of creeped me out because it came out of a cardboard box, but then you would add warm water to it and you'd get that gravy. I don't know if like your poor dog had to eat some gravy that came out of a cardboard box. That just kind of always freaked me out. And then like Gravy Train came out later. Were they copying Chuck Wagon Stagecoach or what was going on there? But all right. So then moving on. And then again, he's nominated again as the Kool-Aid Man. So he had pretty good CGI special effects. Sometimes it looked like he was a guy in a costume, but I'm going to give him, sometimes you look like you're CGI. I was like, his little legs kind of freaked me out, but he had some pretty good CGI effects. And then lastly, Mrs. Butterworth. And this commercial clip we're showing right here had the young Kim Fields was in the commercial. I think this was the most famous commercial that Mrs. Butterworth ever had.
Mrs. Butterworth?
Yes?
How come you taste so good?
Well, my syrup is very thick and rich.
Thick and rich?
Just watch. See how the leading syrup just runs over this stack? While Mrs. Butterworth's takes her own sweet time. Now, my syrup's got to be thick to pour this slowly. Truth is, Mrs. Butterworth's is twice as thick as the other syrup. Thick and rich and...
Mrs. Butterworth, I love you.
Oh.
And Brian, I'm going to ask you some trivia here. What character did Kim Fields go on to play later?
Oh, Kim Fields is famous for being Tootie in The Facts of Life.
Absolutely. And do you know she was actually a crossover character? Do you know what TV show she first played Tootie on?
I was it Good Times?
Well, you're partially right there, Brian. She was also on Good Times, but she on Different Strokes she played Tootie, and then that crossed over. And then that was my other part of I was going to ask you. She played Good Times. She played the friend. Who did she play the friend of on Good Times?
Did she play Penny's friend? Yeah. Penny was played by Janet Jackson.
Absolutely. And then it gets even more Janet Jackson was also on Different Strokes, where she played the girlfriend of Todd Bridges. She did not play Penny on Different Strokes. She played Charlene. So it's all it's all confusing, but
it is. We were talking backstage while we were waiting to present some of these awards, how with the female listenership that we surprisingly have, and we thank you all for listening.
I was just going to say, so it's really amazing. This is the first time we've ever mentioned Kim Fields on the 70s versus the 80s, because she had this iconic Mrs. Butterworth, probably the most famous Mrs. Butterworth commercial. And then she went on Good Times, Different Strokes, and of course we all know her from The Facts of Life. So she's a true 70s versus 80s legend. And the winner is Mrs. Butterworth, and Kool-Aid Man is not going to be happy with this one.
All right, so the last one I got to do solo was a fun one, and this actually was a real thing. So the award, whoever's voting on these awards got it right. All right, so thanks for having me. I'm Spunky Comstock from the 70s versus the 80s podcast, and I'm out here to do my final solo award of the night. This is for the mascot whose food is most likely to turn something about you red. All right, so let's go through these nominees. First, I see him sitting way in the back. It's the Frankenberry Monster. Frankenberry Monster debuted in 1971.
Oh, what a beautiful day for Frankenberry, the world's super sweet new cereal.
Phooey! Here's the world's super sweet new cereal called Chocula.
Bickle, I've got berry-flavored sweeties for monstrous strawberry flavor.
Well, I've got chocolate sweeties for monstrous chocolate flavor.
Frankenberry
Called Chocula.
And then here we have the next nominee, the red M&M. It melts in your mouth, not in your hands, but well, I don't know. That red dye could do something to you. So I see you there, Mr. Red M&M.
He went away and came back, didn't he? Didn't red M&Ms go away for a while?
Yeah, he debuted in 1996, but they had the whole red. Yeah, so the M&Ms have a dark and deep, stormy history. But
we'll have to dig into that some other time.
Yeah, they're here to support Red M&M. He's sitting right down up front. And another nomination for Kool-Aid Man. Oh, yeah. Who hasn't had their hands and everything dyed red from Kool-Aid Man? This is looking good for you, Kool-Aid Man. I see you over there. Oh, yeah. All right, shout out to Kool-Aid Man here off to the side of the stage. So let me open this up. And the winner is, because there was an ingredient that turned people's feces pinkish red, the winner is Frankenberry Monster.
Sweet.
And yes, it's a true thing, and they had to change the recipe. Frankenberry Monster, come on up. Grunt your speech, your acceptance speech. That was a fantastic trick you did, making people have pinkish red feces. That's got to just be lovely for those kids of the early 70s.
That's some good times there. I mean, his friends Booberry and Count Chocolate sit next to him. They never got that colored treatment, so.
No, they saved the best for Frankenberry. It's actually, in my opinion, it's the best of the three cereals over Booberry and Count Chocula. But I was Count Chocula.
Yeah, I think I had Frankenberry third. I was all distracted by that feces turning,
artificial strawberry
feces color turning thing. Maybe didn't do it for me, but.
I think maybe the flavor got worse when they removed that ingredient. It's all about the trade-offs. You had your last award of the night, solo, and then you had been wearing something else. Didn't you change into a white tuxedo towards the end of the award show?
Yeah, I got my favorite white tuxedo here. All right, so this was my last category I got to present solo here. The most cocaine inspired by an ad agency. So this will make sense when I read it off here. So my first nomination is all the way from 1925. It's the Green Giant himself. Can we hear a ho, ho, ho for him?
Ho, ho, ho.
Green Giant.
And did you know he's a Minnesota character there, Brian?
Oh, yeah, there's a statue of him somewhere down in the Minnesota River Valley.
So he definitely seemed a little cocaine inspired with his green color. So then our second nominee is, check this out. He's got nominated again. This might be a record. Kool-Aid Man. Oh, yeah. I always got a little psychedelic feeling off him. I don't know if he was cocaine inspired or psychedelics. He seemed a little more psychedelic. That might be a better category for him.
It's all about the powder with the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, he's pushing the powders, that's for sure. And then lastly, I have the whole bunch of them. I have the Fruit of the Loom guys.
That's why Fruit of the Loom introduces the Unbustables, our best-built boys' briefs ever.
With our heaviest pre-shrunk cotton fabric.
Our strongest waistband ever.
All at a great low price. So give your tough guys our best-built boys' briefs ever. The Unbustables, new from the unbeatable Fruit of the Loom. Now, save up to $4 on future purchases of Fruit of the Loom. Details at stores.
What is up with them grown men wearing fruit on their, especially the grape guy who had the grape on his head? It just always seemed very cocaine inspired to me. Why are they always hanging out together? I have no idea. Maybe it's because they were cocaine inspired. Maybe they're doing a deal. All right. And so here comes our winner. It looks like it is the Fruit of the Loom guys. So they're all coming up here. The apple guy. Somebody's trying to take a bite out of the apple guy. And Tony the Tiger's trying to take a bite out of the apple guy, so here they come.
I was sitting side stage and I got hit by one of the grapes in the face as they all walked by.
Those guys, all right. And should we go on to our final one?
Well, yeah, we were asked to present the final award of the night. And so we'll go ahead and roll the clip of it, Mike.
Brian, it's so great to be up here for the final award of the night. This one's oddly specific, Brian. Do you want to go ahead and read off what it is?
I'll read it. So on behalf of Mike on the Mic, Wolfman Mike, and myself from the 70s vs. 80s podcast, we're here to present the mascot who sounds the most like Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, yeah!
And the nominees are...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah!
All right. So the first one is Fred Flintstone. Fred Flintstone debuted in the early 60s. Or was it the late 50s? It doesn't matter. Fred, you'll forgive us. We were so excited to be asked to present this award that we didn't do our research for this. But Fred Flintstone, yabba dabba doo.
So Fred Flintstone won an award earlier today, and the less famous ones, and the bank went with the ones that don't get aired online. They won for characters. Fred and Barney won for characters that act the least amount like themselves on the commercial than they did on the show. They always had a different personality on the commercial. So,
If you put sweet pebbles in your mouth, you'll never have rocks in your head. Cocoa pebbles are cocoa-moco good. Well, have some more. Have more fruity pebbles, too.
Hi, Barney.
Hi, Wilma. Barney? Fooled you, Fred. You ate up all my pebbles. At least you got the free Flintstones action toy inside the box. Why, you...
congratulations for winning that earlier tonight.
Yeah, Fred, I think you've been typecast as a lunkhead that bowls and works at a rock pit. So, all right, our second nominee. Go ahead, Mike. You can read off this one.
I got Tony the Tiger from Frosted Flakes, as we all know him there.
Good, they're great.
Ah, yes, Kellogg's main mascot. I think he's even a better mascot than Snap, Crackle, and Pop, who are sitting there. They're sulking because they haven't won a thing tonight. Snap, Crackle, and Pop have been shut out. Tony the Tiger?
Yeah, he was up for another award today. He was up for the crappiest special effects award, but he lost to the Tidy Bowl Man. You know, the Tidy Bowl Man won for the award for also won for most Land of the Lost, crappiest special effects of Land of the Lost. So Tony the Tiger lost to Tidy Bowl Man twice.
You know, those at that banquet before the airing of this show, they had even more specific awards there.
Yeah, why are these awards so specific?
All right, and our last nominee for the night, I think this is the 7th award he's been nominated for. He's been shut out so far, but I have a good feeling about this one. It is, of course, sitting right over there to my left, Kool-Aid Man with his "Oh Yeah."
Oh, yeah!
Mike, this has always got to be locked up for him.
This one, he's got to win. He's got to win. You know, he sounds like Randy Macho Man with his. He's even got the same tagline. I mean, I just can't wait to see Kool-Aid Man just break through the wall when he yell his name off.
Yeah, I mean, the prop people made a wall. I think they knew he was going to win this because I see him putting a wall up. So, Mike, you have the envelope in your hand. Why don't you go ahead and open it up and read our final award winner of the night.
All right, so here it is. The tension's palpable in the room here, Brian. Here we go. And it looks like the winner is Tony the Tiger.
Tony the... What?
He says that great. He doesn't even say, oh, yeah.
Look, I see Tony the Tiger came up, but look out, Mike, look out.
Oh, Kool-Aid Man's breaking through the wall anyways. Stay away from my white tuxedo, Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, the carnage. Mike, your tuxedo, and Tony the Tiger. I guess that brings a whole new meaning to the phrase, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Oh. This is terrible. Someone tell the director, stop filming.
Oh, now he's breaking through the wall. Why doesn't he just use the doorway? Why did Kool-Aid Man never use the doorway? I guess he's a little too hippie. I mean, he's got those big hips. He can't fit through the doorway, I guess.
Yeah, there's your tuxedo's red. Tony the Tiger's laying on the floor. There's a Kool-Aid Man shaped hole on the side of the auditorium here. I don't know if we're going to get our rental deposit back. This is just terrible. I hope the cameraman got that all on TV. That's better than Chris Rock and Will Smith.
Yeah. Like you said, we all drank the Kool-Aid there, and it was forced upon us.
Yeah, that was an interesting night. I'm glad that they even sent the Wienermobile to 70s versus 80s podcast world headquarters to pick us up and drive us there. So I think that was a nice touch. I'm glad they invited us.
That was a beautiful touch, actually.
I hope it airs because we were backstage with some of the awards. We didn't see all of them, so see our smiling faces on TV, and then maybe they'll even invite us back next year.
All right, yeah. It's just the Kool-Aid carnage is too much. Let's go get cleaned up here, Brian.
Yeah, I think there's still so much. They're still mopping the stage. Mike, one of the great things that happened for our podcast here in the last week was a horse named after a segment in our show finished third in the Kentucky Derby. And so that got me thinking about the 70s and 80s and the Kentucky Derby. And also, I think we should play a round of Forever Young, which we'll do after I bring out the controversial statement at the 70s and 80s podcast, which we never shy away from the controversy that we're ready to tackle.
Ooh, I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I pose to you and our faithful listeners that the 1973 Triple Crown winner, Secretariat, is the greatest Triple Crown or greatest racehorse of all time. And the 70s is going to lay claim because Secretariat was born in March of 1970 and passed in October of 1989. So basically, Secretariat's lifespan was pretty much the entire breadth of our podcast. So we talk about these 70s and these 80s. And then you can say, well, how can you say greatest of all time? Because Secretariat didn't race against every racehorse out there. But in the Triple Crown events, Secretariat holds the fastest times in each of those events. Has the fastest time in the Kentucky Derby, in the Belmont Stakes, and in the Preakness. The Kentucky Derby was amazing because each quarter-mile split of Secretariat was faster than the previous one, meaning that at the end of a mile and a quarter, Secretariat was still accelerating. And then, famous video out there, Secretariat was famous for not breaking away fast and kind of running everybody down. With so few horses in the, I think, was it the Belmont or the Preakness?
The Belmont was the last one.
Was the last one Belmont? Yeah, because that's the fastest American time in a mile and a half on dirt, any track, any time. With so few horses that when he broke, he just kept going, and everyone thought he'd run himself out, and then he just ran an amazing time and won by like over a fifth of a mile lead. I think it was like 26 or 36 lengths. So those things lead me to say that the 70s versus the 80s is really going to squelch that there's no controversy that Secretariat is the greatest Triple Crown winner of all time, winning it in 1973, right during the height of the things we talk about here on this podcast that decade.
Of a mile away from the rest of the horses. Secretariat is in a position that seems impossible to catch. He's into the stretch. Secretariat leads his field by 18 lengths, and now Twice a Prince has taken second, and My Gallant has moved back to third. They're in the stretch. Secretariat has opened a 22-length lead. He is going to be the Triple Crown winner. Here comes Secretariat.
Yeah, I don't think there's any controversy. I just watched the tape, especially that Belmont where there's only one horse in the picture frame because the other ones are so far behind him, and so yeah, I think it's definitely the greatest racehorse of all time. And then and then like we said in this year's Kentucky Derby, we had the Forever Young horse finished in the top three, and it lost by a nose. So the winning horse, Mystic Dan, won by a nose, and it's kind of funny when that happens because that's a phrase we use all the time, and then when you see it when it comes from its original, you go, oh, that's where we got that phrase from. So
yeah, absolutely.
corner and grabbed the lead right at the top of the stretch. Sierra Leone and Forever Young are shoulder to shoulder with a furlong to go, but they've got 2 lengths to make up on Mystic Dan, who's begging for the wire. Forever Young and Sierra Leone keep on coming. Sierra Leone, Forever Young, and Mystic Dan. A wild finish. Here's the wire. Photo finish. 3 noses on the wire. Mystic Dan, Sierra Leone, and Forever Young.
Basically, the Forever Young was 2 noses away from being the Kentucky Derby champion. I just wanted to kind of pay homage to Secretariat in the 70s. I mean, I know there's more we could say. Like 5,427 bettors never cashed the winning tickets to keep them as a memento that they had the winning, Secretariat winning. I don't know if that was at the Kentucky Derby or at the Belmont.
Wow.
Probably the Belmont, because Secretariat was such a huge favorite that I think it paid maybe $2.20 on a $2 bet. Yeah, you'd owe the track money. And it had been 25 years since there was a Triple Crown winner, so it was one of those things where something goes on 25 years and you start talking about it's never going to happen again. And at that time, I think that was the 99th running of the Kentucky Derby, because this one that just ran this year is the 150th. You go 25 years with something not happening, you're like, oh, that's never going to happen again. No one's going to beat Joe DiMaggio's streak. No one's going to get more Super Bowls than Tom Brady. No one's going to have more number 1 records than the Beatles, than Taylor Swift. So some records are meant to be broken.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's controversy when it's hard to say with Billboard number 1s now, because the way we do music changes, and sports are changing the length of seasons and stuff like that. But it was an accomplishment. It hadn't happened, so there was a fever for it when Secretariat had such a good 2-year-old season that he was got a lot of attention for his 3-year-old season.
And then do you remember the horse that won the Triple Crown in 1977? Was a pretty good horse.
Yeah, I've had arguments before with people that grew up in the time frame that Seattle Slew in 77 was a better champion, but I say Seattle Slew didn't beat any of Secretariat's track records, so I don't know that Seattle Slew would have beat Secretariat head to head. And Secretariat never raced again after the end of the 73 season. Part of that was the owner had passed, and so the farm was in financial straits, so they sold off like the breeding rights to a syndicate with the promise that Secretariat wouldn't race again after 73. And so never had, go on to continue to race or said anything like that. So it was really based on the 3-year-old season. But just the 3 times in the 3 main races, right, he would lay back and then drop the hammer, or then at the Belmont just do an awe-inspiring run with no one challenging him. That's just him running, and he's setting records without any incentive other than just he was unbelievably made and was meant to run.
Yeah, and so hopefully this year we'll have the same 3 horses run in all 3 races, and hopefully they'll all be close finishes. So maybe there'll be some excitement that way.
I'm hoping for it, because it's like America's first sport, and back before Netflix and Broadway plays and all the other things to do, it was one of the entertainments to do. You would go to the local horse racing track and hang out for the afternoon. And then, of course, it's got its seedier side because betting's involved, and anytime you add in betting and money, it can, lose all my money at the track, which is still a saying as well, which goes back to horse racing.
So yeah, that's like so they used to always have it where there'd be a big boxing match, like the 5th of May for Mexico would usually have a big boxing match, and then that first Saturday in May you have the Kentucky Derby. So I would always call it 1800s Sports Day, because they'd have all the sports from the 1800s, boxing, horse racing, watch some baseball, and you could have all the sports from the 1800s.
Exactly. So. Well, then that leads into Forever Young. Said we should play Forever Young in homage to the namesake, the horse that was named after this segment of our podcast. So I picked one, And I don't know if you want me to go ahead and start first.
Yeah, go for it, Brian.
Okay, so sticking with the theory of horse racing and horses, I'm going with the 1979 movie, the book that was made into a movie, Black Stallion. And the character is Terry Garr, who played the mother of the boy who frees and then befriends the Black Stallion and eventually goes on, how the movie unfolds, right? But
if you want to believe in magic, in beauty, in friendship, and freedom, believe in the Black Stallion.
The biggest, the blackest, and the strongest, the most beautiful horse that ever was.
Francis Ford Coppola presents Walter
So Terry Garr
Farley's
played the mother of that boy, and so it was made in 1979. How old was Terry Garr in 1979?
Terry Garr in 1979. Wow.
It was after she was in Young Frankenstein, but before she would have been in like Tootsie or Mr. Mom.
Okay. Wow. That gives me some point of reference.
That might have helped. That might have helped or hurt.
She's one of those actresses that always appeared to be the same age. Let's go with... I'm feeling 26. Let's go 26, Hunter.
All right. Well, she played the mother of the boy, so that would really be Hollywood casting her poorly. But she was only 35.
Okay.
Which was maybe about 5 or so years younger. I think she played the father of the boy who befriends the Black Stallion was played by Hoyt Axton, who I mentioned had I think he was on one episode of WKRP in Cincinnati, and I think he wrote Joy to the World for Three Dog Night.
So I was 9 years off, which is actually, when I get within a decade, I'm pretty good, because
that might be your best performance yet.
That might be my best ever, because I'm totally horrible at this game.
Cue the fanfare.
All right, so you should be able to beat me pretty easily here. I'm going with the 1974 movie Death Wish, which kind of sounds like a racehorse's name, but it was our star Charles Bronson. It was actually his first starring role in a movie. So how old was Charles Bronson in Death Wish? 1974's Death Wish.
He felt like he came into acting maybe a little later in life, but if it's his first movie, 29 is jumping out at me for some reason. That he'd have been 29, which may even be a little old for the first your debut movie, but I don't know if that's maybe too young to have that tough guy persona. You think of a tough guy, it's more someone who's got a couple, has a few miles around him, right? A lot of trips around the sun, got scars that he got in, on boats and bars and all that kind of stuff. So how far off am I, Mike?
So you're going with 29?
I'm going to 29.
Brian, you finally did it. You finally did worse than me. And in fact, much worse. Charles Bronson, his first starring role in Death Wish, he was 53 years old.
53?
He came into acting in his 40s, so you're...
okay.
Where he played this...
That's what I had thought, but then I'm thinking it was his first one, because I don't know that I've watched Death Wish. I think it was more recent... Well, but he would have been... 5 years later, he'd have been 58, so... All right.
He started out, he started out mining when his father died. He was a miner. He started mining, and then he went straight to World War II. And then I think he just did the Dirty Dozen in his 40s, which he wasn't a star.
Yeah, he got the tough guy persona down.
So the reason I asked you Charles Bronson is that this is the real question I wanted to ask you. Who was born first? So who was older, Charles Bronson or Clint Eastwood?
Oh, that's interesting, because Clint Eastwood, they had to be born relatively close to each other. Because Clint Eastwood would have been in his 40s. I think Bronson is older than Clint Eastwood by probably about 6-7 years.
Yeah, you're correct. So Charles Bronson was born in 1921. Clint Eastwood was born in 1930. So he's a good 9 years older. And just the reason I thought Clint Eastwood would be the oldest actor we ever talked about on the 70s versus the 80s. And I know we had the the ones that were born in the 1800s. That played
the couple from the old couple golfing from Caddyshack with Tony D'Annunzio or whatever, but they were peripheries. They were.
That's a peach, son.
Yep. So I just thought for a starring role, we'd never talk about anybody older than Clint Eastwood, but then I found out that Charles Bronson was actually 9 years older than Clint Eastwood. Charles Bronson died in 2003. I think lived to be 81 or 82. I can't remember.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, you definitely stumped me.
So yeah, he definitely wasn't forever young. But let's listen to well, we've been listening to Alpha Bill's Forever Young, and Mark wants us to play Bob Dylan's Forever Young. So maybe we'll have that bring us out here.
All right, bump out on Bob Dylan's Forever Young.
And signing off for Brian Spunky Comstock himself, this is Wolfman Mike on the mic, reminding you to wash your hands after you wipe. Thank you for joining us on another episode of the 70s versus the 80s. And we want to hear from you. Just click on the link in the show notes and leave us a voicemail, and you will hear yourself on the next episode. Until next time, stay spunky, my funky ones.
You know, it's all about the powder with the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, he's pushing the powders, that's for sure.